we're going to talk about FTX today. Because it was just recently reported that FTX is actually bankrupt and DirtyBubbleMedia did a lot of research. I'm going to leave the link to his article below because it's a really good read, and I highly recommend you read it because it made me see a lot of things I hadn't seen before. But I don't know, 5 days before this article, Gmail had already taken my money out of FTX because I didn't feel safe with them. So, all of the limit orders I had with my Bitcoin and Ethereum on FTX have been canceled. I also pulled out all of the money I had in there, which was about $30,000, because it's a bear market, things are shady, there are a lot of bankruptcies, and I don't want my money anywhere that could be risky. So, that's some good advice. If you decide to follow that advice, great. If not, guys, please hit that like button and that subscribe button because we need to get this video to everyone who uses FTX. I know a lot of YouTubers are promoting FTX right now, and some of them are even putting money into it. I don't think they realize the dangers they're putting their audiences in. So, we need to show this video to more people who need to see it, since it's better to be safe than sorry right now. Most of us have already had bad experiences with Celsius and Voyager, and we don't want that to happen with FTX. So let's hit that like button. Then, let's move on to the next part. Coinbase said in their report that they had gotten a copy of Alameda Research's Q2 balance sheet. The balance sheet of the company shows that it has assets worth a total of $14.6 billion. There are about 5.8 billion FTT tokens in this. 1.2 billion Solana tokens, $3.37 billion in a known cryptocurrency, and $2 billion in equity securities as investments. And that leaves about $2.2 billion in other assets. Right now, we have hundreds of millions of dollars in Alameda's holdings of the Serum project, SRM Oxygen, Oxymaps, and Find tokens, all of which are projects with no emotional attachment. And this balance sheet shows that Media will only have $134 million in cash in June 2022. Also, we need to talk about the total debts, which are $8 billion, of which $7.4 billion is in loans and $292 million is in FTT tokens. Oh, the last part is a marker. So, the leak showed that Alameda's biggest asset is the FTX token FTT it owns. And that is made by Sam's other business, the FTX exchange. The FTT token makes up about a third of Alameda's total assets on their balance sheet. So why is it frightening? So it's scary because Alameda's biggest asset is this FTT token, which is issued by Sam's other company, FTX, and a big part of their other assets are issued by other companies, such as Solana. All of these assets have a value that changes a lot because they are crypto, which makes them volatile. What would happen if they suddenly failed, which is possible because that's what happened with Terra Luna. I wanted to read this to you. It's almost as if SPF figured out how to break into the financial system and print billions of dollars out of thin air, which he then used to borrow huge amounts of money from people he didn't know. It's almost like he found a machine that keeps money moving, like a flywheel, which is exactly what Celsius did, or the way a flywheel works is pretty simple. In the first step, you make a token and make sure that most of those tokens stay on your balance sheet. Step 2 is to raise the price of the tokens. So you're the one who makes the market, you buy your tokens with the money your customers give you, and you do whatever it takes to make the price go to infinity. And since you kept most of the tokens for yourself, there is less chance that another whale will come in and dump them after you put them on the market. That means that you get what you deserve. Now you can show investors on your balance sheet that you have assets worth billions of dollars. And that's where number 4 comes in, you show off your success, right? So go to the market and try to get investments from, I don't know, pension funds, and convince them to pay a lot more than they should for your business or to give you big loans for your very valuable business. Then, you'll just keep doing the same thing over and over again. Since you now have real money from the investors, you can buy whatever you want. The problem is that if this plan stops working, you will have a terrible time. So the problem with this plan is that to get investors, you have to keep the price high. But to do that, you have to keep the price high. If you do that, other investors will take their profits and sell out at the top. They have an incentive to do that, which means you have to keep pushing the price up and up. You need more money, more investors, and you have to keep buying more tokens at higher prices. If you don't, you'll either run out of money before you can buy all the tokens, or you won't be able to buy any more. None of these things can happen. Because when you stop, everything falls apart, like you're a meth addict who can't get his next hit because he's out of money. And the problem with this plan is that it doesn't work if you have a lot of hard-to-sell assets that no one else wants. In that case, it's just paper money, like Celsius. And even though they have a lot of sell tokens, they can't get rid of them because no one wants to buy them. So they can get rid of it without selling it for nothing. FTX will have the same thing happen to it. And a token for the FTT. Another big problem that DirtyBubbleMedia found is that the blockchain shows that most of the FTT tokens are owned by only 10 addresses. This means that 93% of all tokens are held by only 10 addresses. And when this happens, guys, it's dangerous because there's so much of it, you don't have time to react. It can't be like this because it's a decentralized system. They also found that only 180 to 200 addresses are actively trading in FTT tokens. I don't know, maybe some people are up to no good. So there aren't many people who own FTT, and there isn't much demand for the token as a whole. It's very illiquid. And the last thing I want to point out is this flowchart of ATT token flows through the FTX exchange over the past 30 days. This is worrying because many of these addresses are getting FTT tokens. But most of them go through these two routes, which shows that there isn't much of a demand. So, if you only remember one thing from this video, remember this: the main point is that Alameda has a lot of money and assets that are shown in that FTT token. But the problem is that they hold most of the FTT tokens, and if they ever need to sell, they can't find anyone who wants to buy them. This means that if they ever need to sell, the price of a FTT token will immediately drop to zero, which is a very dangerous situation. So, if we count it as zero, Alameda is pretty much bankrupt. So, I want to bring attention to this article from April 25th. Same disability red yield for me, and it left Matt Levine speechless. You will be shocked after you read this article and listen to the podcast. And I'm not going to explain this whole article to you. Here are some of the most important points. I'm not going to show you these highlights and read them to you. Instead, I'm going to animate this. So you know that, because Sam Bankman got rid of a lot of filler words that made things hard to understand. And when people do that, you should get tired of them. So let's jump right into what he actually said. Okay, so in the example that SPF uses, we have a box where people can put money and get an X token. So SPF never said that it has any real use. They only said that it might have some use. So, whoever invests in this box will get an airdrop of that X token based on how much he invested and how many of those tokens are in circulation. So basically, they are getting the amount of that token that is equal to their share. Now for the most important part. SPF uses the example that this X token, which is airdrop, will have some value or market cap. The whole point is that it doesn't do nothing. And he uses a large number, even though the whole crypto industry is a small number. But the number he says is 20 million. That might be how much this X token is worth on the market. So the interviewer came back and said that, from the start, the token has no value. And in my opinion, many empirical claims say that it would have a market capitalization. So, the way I see this, and the way I think he sees it, is that it's kind of like an IPO where there will be a floor to buy in, right? IPOs, on the other hand, are for companies that have already been through a lot and are likely making money. These are companies that have their bases set. But in this case, the box he is talking about is completely imaginary. And it was just a piece of information from SBI. Now, guys, this YouTube channel is good for families. So I'm not going to say HSS. But it is like that. So how do we go about making token X more valuable? So these things, these empty gestures, are being dropped from the sky. He uses the fact that smart investment firms don't know much about crypto to his advantage. These smart investment firms have money that isn't theirs to waste, so he shows them an X token with $100 million in it. So these investors will think that there are already $100 million there. So, that's a lot of cash. So it might be something to look at and also hold out to these investors. That airdrops are 16% of the rewards for staking. So that's kind of like interest that will bring in $16 million a year, and those are the numbers that these smart investment firms are looking at. So, he said that in the interview. I think it's all crazy because he just makes up these numbers out of thin air. And at best, these are maybes, not for shirts, so he goes on to say that, sophisticated traders or people on crypto Twitter or some of the parties go and put $200 million in the box together, and they start getting token XS for it. In other words, what he means is that the value will go up the more attention it gets. And those who know how to make money from it. So, they're really the ones who won. But when I read this, I knew right away that this was a Ponzi scheme, even before Matt said it. In other words, this is basically the same as every other fiat currency system in the world. Sam Bankman-Fried also talked about the cynical argument that this box is worth nothing, that it is zero, that it is milk, that it is not. But he also says that if people think it has value, they will keep pumping it. So, you could take these X tokens that have value in fiat currency, and you can use it in a protocol for lending and borrowing, like Aave, to borrow real dollars, and you'll never have to pay them back because they can just keep this worthless X token. And basically, you just took the money and ran away, leaving it on a rug or whatever the Lightning protocol is. Aside from that, some strange things have happened with Alameda and FTX in the past few months. Both of these companies were started by Sam Bankman-Fried. First, Santabuco, who was one of Alameda's CEOs, stepped down as CEO. So, I thought that was a little bit strange. Brett Harrison, who was the president and CEO of FTX, also quit his job. So why are both of these CEOs leaving their jobs? This made me think that something really, really strange is going on here that hasn't been said or brought to the surface yet. So, guys, you really need to be careful. I've already taken my money out of FTX. So, I think you should do that if you haven't already. And if you're wondering where I keep my cryptocurrency, I keep it in my ledger, which is protected by my app Coin. This is cold storage, so don't connect it to MetaMask or anything else. Just leave it as cold storage. Just put your crypto there and make sure the internet can't get to it. This is a USB, and I keep my secret phrases on it because it has a pin pad. Only you know the pin because you set it, and you only need the pin to get to the files inside, which only you should know. So, those are my safety keys. This information is also in the pinned comment below. If you guys don't know how to use a ledger, I made a video for you right here, so you have no reason not to learn how to use a ledger if you're in crypto. Alright, guys, that's all I have to say for today. If you liked this video, please leave a comment for the YouTube algorithm and share it with someone who really needs to see it, because more people need to know about this. Other than that, please hit the like button, subscribe, and check out our other videos on cryptocurrencies and passive income. And don't forget guys, you got to keep working. Keep building, keep inspiring. I'll see you next time.